Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live. Today, we are doing Project 10. Oh my goodness, it's already Project 10 in next week's series of AWS projects. So I'm so excited to be doing this project with everyone. Today, we are going to be talking about automating with AWS CloudFormation, an amazing project. I've truly enjoyed this. And let's get straight into it. I'm matching with the pink wall in the background today, which is very satisfying to see, actually. I didn't think it would be this matchy, but I am not complaining. Alrighty, so as always, I'm gonna start screen sharing now, and let's have a look at what we have on display here. On the left-hand side of my screen is my AWS console. I am logged in to my AWS administrator IAM user. On the right-hand side of my screen, I have the Nextwork community open right now. If you're not a part of this community and you're wondering what is going on here, the link to join is in the description, so I'll see you there. And otherwise, when you're in the community, you can simply click into the All AWS Projects tab here, and then you will be able to see an entire page of all of our AWS projects in one place. This is how you're going to get the step-by-step guide to all of the projects that we offer. And today we're doing the latest project that was released literally just, how long ago? Probably just 3 hours ago, on automating with AWS CloudFormation. So here is the project post, and to get straight into the project, you can click that link at the very start that says start your project here. So welcome to Nextwork's own project app. This is where you will see a step-by-step guide where you can choose either a low-touch version, and in low-touch, you get to use a bit of your creative juices to work through broader sets of instructions. It's not going to tell you where to click. It's going to tell you, here's the problem to solve. How you solve it is a little bit up to you, but you can always switch to the high touch version, which gives you a step-by-step instruction on every single part. So it is great for beginners, and that is the version that we're going to be doing today. Now, if you're new to CloudFormation, that's totally okay. This project is slightly harder in our series, okay? As a heads up, it is a pretty spicy difficulty level. All right, and we are estimating 2.5 hours for this project today if you really want to have that complete experience. But that's what these lives are for. So we get to do this step by step together. There's no rush. You can't rush learning. Sometimes you have to take it slow to be able to really absorb all the things that you can apply to a future project or something you can use to enhance the way you deploy your resources or deploy your applications in the future. All right, as always, I'm going to choose the high touch version today. And the high touch version, again, is where you get step-by-step instructions for every single part. You can always click to the low touch version. And this is your figure it out project, which will give you, less guided steps. All right, so always delete your resources by the end of the day, by the way, even if you don't finish the entire project. And if you're ever stuck, just ask the Nextwork community. Students like you have already been asking questions for this project. Absolutely every single question helps make the community better. So please, if you have anything that comes to mind, a question, chuck it in there. Atif? Hi, Atif. Welcome. So good to see you here. Atif says, are we going to have the recording of this lecture as I'm tightly booked in my office meetings? You will absolutely get access, Atif. Thank you for asking. Every single one of these lives will be recorded and shared with you in the community as well. All the best with your meetings today, by the way. Hope they're all good. Okay. And before we start diving into the AWS console and really clicking around and creating some cool things in here, let's make sure that we're documenting everything that we're doing so there's always a piece of evidence and all the cool things that we're about to do. With every documentation template, you will have to create a copy. So click on File in the top right-hand corner, and then click on Make a Copy. All right, and you will get to edit your own copy of this documentation template. I love these templates because it really gives you a little sneak peek on what you're about to do in today's project. And also, these prompts are truly good to reflect on what have I learned. And always, always, always document as you go, because documenting even a minute after you finish your project is going to be harder than when you were in the moment and working through the steps, working through the errors. And there we have it. I think we are ready to dive into today's project. We're now going to head into a more technical aspect where we're going to set up a web app from scratch using a series of DevOps services with AWS. We're starting with Cloud9, which is a cloud IDE. We're going to be using code commit. We're going to be using code artifact. We're going to be using code build. So it is going to be slightly fast-paced in this step 1, where we're setting up the web app, because we want to get to the new part, today's project, on CloudFormation as fast as possible, so we can really slow down and talk through all the learnings there. If you ever feel like, this first step where we're setting up the web app is a bit too fast to your liking, I highly recommend that you check out the link in the description, because that is where you're going to find even slower versions or broken down versions of each of those steps of setting up that web app. Those videos are all in the description box. And if you ever can't find it, you can ask me in the community or comment here as well. Abhishek in the chat says, hello, Natasha. Good to see you. Good to see you too, Abhishek. Let's get started by first logging into your IAM admin user, which I already have with my console. If you don't know how to create an IAM user, there's the step-by-step guide for that in part 1 of this series. Project 1 in the series, and you can find a link to that in the description. That will take you about maybe another 5 to 10 minutes, and the steps for that, if you haven't created one before, are all here. But since that is something that we have already done 4 times now in this series, we're going to start with the second mini step, okay, in setting up our web app. We're going to start by creating our Cloud9 environment. This is a lot of fun. Let's go straight into the Cloud9 console. You can see that there's already a shortcut for Cloud9 in my AWS account because I'm using it so much. But if you don't see that, let's click on that search bar. And in the search bar, type in Cloud9. Who would have guessed? And you can find the Cloud9 console right here. So voila, here is a very fresh Cloud9 console with not a single environment in there yet. Let's create our first environment now. We're going to call it Network IDE. Nice. The environment type is a new EC2 instance, and the instance type, as mentioned here, is t2.micro. We're going to be using Amazon Linux 2 for the platform. And let's go straight into creating the environment. You know what? I'm going to minimize this a little bit so you can see more of the console today. But often you'll see me click around and resize these windows. So bear with me. Let us wait a little second while this Cloud IDE is getting created. As a recap, what do IDEs do? Think of IDEs as cloud or code editors is how I love to think about IDEs. Just like how Google Docs or Word is great for you to edit documents or write text, create text, export text. IDEs are pretty much the same thing, but for code. So you can use an IDE to write code, to manage code, to edit code. And there are also a lot of tools that you can pull into your IDE to supercharge the way that you create your code, to the way that you do work, and also pull in some extra tools that make your applications even better as well. Oh, that was perfect timing. Let us open our Cloud9 IDE right now and head to the next mini step, which is to install Maven and Java. Ooh, very cool. Maven and Java really are G's. They are so cool because they really help us with creating that web app from scratch. First thing is Maven is our package manager. So Maven is pretty much like the assistant that will pull in all the different kinds of tools, external resources that we need to create our application. And Java is the programming language that we're going to be using today as well. So now that we're here, let us start by installing Maven. Okay, over here, and the code is already provided in the step-by-step guide. All you have to do is copy it there, paste it in here, and you'll see Maven literally at work right now, or our terminal at work to install Maven. So let's go. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just zoom in a little bit so you can see this even better. Oh, wow. Our terminal's looking busy, isn't it? Oof, it's at work. And, in the meantime, the next step that we're going to be doing is installing Java 8. More specifically, we're going to be using Amazon Corretto 8, which is a version of Java. Joaquim in the chat says, how do you generate the code? So the code for this project is provided for you in the step-by-step guide over here. And all you have to do is you can highlight it, copy it, and then paste it into the terminal right away. If you're ever wondering, I don't really know what the code is saying, I want to better understand this code, we do have a slower explanation for every single line of this code in the respective project in this series. So for example, right now I am using code from project 1 of this series. So if you check out the link to project 1 in the description, you'll be able to find that step-by-step guide with explanations about the code as well there. I hope that answers your question, Joaquim. I want to understand the code. Yeah, very, very good point. So again, if you check out the step-by-step guide or the project demo for project 1, you'll be able to understand all of this code because that's where we walk through it. Right now in this project, we're trying to automate with CloudFormation, which is a new part. And that's why we're going to be zooming through all of these parts a little bit faster so that we can get to the CloudFormation part very, very quick. So what I've just run just now is verifying that Java has been installed properly. And if I were to zoom into my terminal, Joaquim says thank you. You're so welcome. And I hope to see you there in the demo for project 1. Truly, there is a line-by-line explanation for all of the code pieces that we run in step 1 once you find the right project for it. All right, so 1.8.0 is the right version that I'm looking for. And then I'm going to verify that Maven was installed correctly next. So let me just run that. Nice, it is Apache Maven 3.5.2. I love the sound of that. I very much do. So now that I have installed Maven and Java successfully, I've verified that I have the correct versions. I am ready to create the web application by running this next piece of code that uses Maven to generate a sample like Java web app. So what I'm doing here is I'm asking Maven to use a template called archetype to generate a web app for me. So that's what this first line says. Hey, Maven, can you use the template archetype, which you use to create a Java web app, to generate that web app for me? And that web app is going to be called Next Web Project. So it says build success. So it's telling me that it successfully created a sample web app for me already, just like that. And if I were to look into my file explorer, you will see a web app called Next Web Project has been created. Now, what is in this web app? Is this a functional web app that I can see already somewhere in my browser? If I were to type in some magical URL, can I see this web app now? No, you can't. There are still a lot of things that we need to be doing to get to that point, and that's what the next few steps are going to be about. But what really has happened here is Maven has installed almost like a architecture or some sort of backbone to make creating that web app easy for us. It's created a bunch of folders, like a hierarchy of folders and files. That's kind of like a starter pack for writing your own Java web app. If you were to click on index.jsp, you'll see that it's a very, very simple looking web app right now. This is it. This is all the user is going to see a simple hello world. So let's start to just customize that a little bit for ourselves by using this code here and pasting that over here to say, hello, your name. Let's at least add our own names to this little web app that's going to be ours. In my case, I'm going to type in my name. I'm going to type in Natasha, type in your name in this place. And yeah, this is my next web application working. Once we see that in a new tab and a new URL, that's when your web app is truly working now. Vosco Vem says hello. Oh, it's Eric. Wow. Hey, Eric. Good to see you. We're going to save our changes to index.jsp by pressing Command S if you're using a MacBook or Control S on the keyboard if you're using Windows. Brandon Weber says, hello, is this Java? Currently, I am creating a Java web app. So yes, this is JSP, which is using Java to define the interface for my web app, but a lot of this project is going to be using AWS services, and we're going to be touching Java a little less. I hope that makes sense, but yes, this is a Java web app at its very core. All right, so that was pretty much project 1 in this series done like that. If there was a part that you thought went too fast, I would recommend that you check out project 1 in the link in the description to find the slower paced, I guess, project demo for that one. Now we're going to head into project 2 territory, where we're going to go into AWS code commit and create a repository. Now, as a quick recap, you can think of repositories as kind of like those cloud Google Drive folders for your source code. The source code that I'm writing right now is within my IDE. It is within Cloud9, but let's store that in a very secure place. And let's store that in the cloud, because where else could be more secure, I guess? Whenever you're storing code like locally in a computer, there's always a chance that if the computer breaks, your code is pretty much lost forever. That's why storing your code in a repository that's in the cloud is such a good idea, because, well, I guess if your computer goes down locally, at least there is a version of your code like living up in the cloud that you can use, that you can access through another device. So let's create our own repository right now, and let's call it Network Web Project. Very cool. I think we can create this repository pretty much right away. Just add that description that says a web application for the Network homepage. Very nice. And let's go ahead and create it. Wow, Solomon says hi. Solomon, it is so good to see you here. I'm saying hi back. Wow, thank you for being here. And someone in the chat called Watch says, hello, Natasha. Thank you for your guidance and support. It's greatly appreciated. Well, it's very greatly appreciated for me to have your presence in this call as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being in this live demo. Wow. Please ask any questions you might have at any time, by the way. Cool. So we have created our code commit repository now. We have our cloud Google Drive folder in the cloud right now that's ready to store your code, but it hasn't received your code yet. It's kind of like you've created this empty folder that's now in the cloud that's saying, hey, I'm ready to start storing your code. Where is it? Show me. And how you're going to do that is by going back into your source code in your working area in your IDE, and then save those changes to your cloud folder, to your repository. So I'm going to switch back to, again, my IDE, which you can always think of as kind of like the working area for my code. Like this is where you're going to edit your code. And then everything else is kind of like infrastructure to support your the storing of your code, securing of your code, or making your code available to the world as well. But yes, let's come back to the working area and let's save our changes to our code commit repository by first running. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it better. Okay, by first running git config -- global user.name, which is basically saying, hey, Git, this is my name. My name is Natasha. And again, this is my email. I'm going to quickly type that. Oh, global user.name. This is my email. So whenever I make any changes, assign those changes to my identity. And my identity is made up of my email and my name. So I have just kind of registered my identity to Git. And now let us navigate in our terminal to the web app project by using that command that starts with cd. So right now I'm saying cd, change my directory. Can you please, from the terminal, go into this folder? We are always privileged, very, very privileged to be able to navigate using clicks. I can just double click on a folder and I'm like in the folder now. Yeah, double click, I'm inside. But the terminal doesn't really have hands. It can't really double click. So we always have to use commands to actually enter and exit folders. And that's what this command was about. Change directory, enter, go into this folder called Network Web Project. Oops, I accidentally did that. Don't know how I did that. And let's initiate the local repo in this folder. Okay, I've just run that command now. And in my code commit repository, this is where I can go clone my URL, clone the HTTPS. So basically copy into my clipboard the HTTPS URL for my code commit repository. And let's connect my local working space, all of my source code here with my code commit repository that's in the cloud. Let's connect them so that if I save my changes locally, I can push those changes up to my cloud, like Google Drive folder, holding all of a cloud version of my code. So this is awesome. Let's see it in action right away by using this command here. It says git remote add origin. Git remote add origin, and then paste the code that you've just copied. So let's go. Git remote add origin. Paste the code. Very nice. And now they're connected. Okay, we've pretty much set up this link between my working space and the cloud, code commit repository. So now we can just run these commands to save those changes. So now I'm saying all of the changes that I've made locally, let's push them up to my code commit repository. Watch that happen super, super quickly. I see that those changes have been saved now. And if I were to refresh my code commit repository, what's going to happen? Have a little quick think. What's going to happen in here? There we go. So all of the work that I've done in my local repository, you can now see in my code commit repository as well. You see how my Nextwork web project has SRC, which stands for source code, and a file called pom.xml. If I were to switch gears into my code commit repository, again, SRC, my source code, and pom.xml. So hooray, you've now set up this connection between your local working space, which is represented by this IDE, with a code commit repository, which is kind of like that cloud Google Drive folder for your code. So now that that's done, we have ticked project 2 in this series. We're now in project 3 territory now. So shall we head into the project 3 jungle of Code Artifact? So setting up Code Artifact helps manage and store backup copies of your project's dependencies. We'll start with creating domains and repositories, which work as folders for the packages we're about to install. Yeah, so absolutely, I'd highly recommend that you check out the project 3 in this series if these are some new terms to you. But as a quick recap, what's happening right now is we have a web app project that I forgot what the right word. Is it called, what is the word if you can just survive completely on your own without the help of others? I forgot the word for it. But let's just say that your web app that you've created, even though you've written this code locally in your local repository, it's actually pulling in some awesome resources in the public space, from other people, other developers, and it will absolutely start to rely on these packages, these external tools, in order to function properly. And these external tools that it's pulling in, they're called dependencies, and you absolutely should be keeping a backup of all of those dependencies in other repositories, in other Google Drive folders. Think of it as you have one repository, one folder for all of your source code, the code that you're working on, and you're typing in manually. But what about what about a separate Google Drive folder to store all of those dependencies that we just talked about? So we need to save a backup copy of them. If they ever go down in the public space, at least we have a backup copy that we can be using. Okay, that's the entire point. And why, or just saying don't reinvent the wheel or don't repeat yourself. That's why we use external libraries. DKAMX has put it very, very eloquently. So thank you so much for helping me out there. And yeah, exactly that. And that is also why we use dependencies as well, to really save yourself some time and get straight into creating some unique stuff. Alrighty, so to get started with Code Artifact, we're going to start by creating a domain. So it says create repository here, but we're actually going to be creating a domain first. And the domain is really, really easy to create. Just type in Nextwork, or you can type in your name and then create it. I highly recommend that you type in Nextwork, by the way, and use Nextwork because there is going to be a bit of code that references your domain directly. And if it's not Nextwork, it might result in a few errors. Or if you're feeling brave, go ahead and type in your own name or something custom as a domain. Just watch out for any references to Nextwork that might be about the domain and make sure that you change that so that you can prevent any errors from happening as well. Abdul Rahman in the chat says, "Hi, Natasha. Glad to be here. Let's do this." I'm so glad you're here as well. Oh my goodness. This is so cool. Everyone say hello to Abdul Rahman in the chat because Abdul Rahman is one of our newest members in the community as well. And he has been amazing. Absolutely a superstar. So thanks so much for being here. All right, so what I'm doing on the screen right now is I'm creating a repository. So think of domain as kind of like that big folder that contains all of the mini subfolders of packages that we store. And now this repository that I'm creating right now is like, hey, let's create a folder just for all of the dependencies for this project. Whereas the domain is like all the projects I create, all of their dependencies will fall under this main folder called my domain. And yeah, in the meantime, we have an awesome local repository now set up. Looks beautiful. And let's connect our code artifact repository with our work over here. Cool. So it says here, let's connect it with your web app project so that your project knows where to store and access its packages and dependencies. Correct. Now we need to make that connection. Just like how with code commit, we created kind of like a code commit repository, a Google Drive folder in the cloud for storing our source code. We needed to still make that connection between them so that the folder knows that it's saving all of the code from our working space, our IDE over here. Same thing with code artifact. We have now set up this other Google Drive folder in the cloud for storing these dependencies and these packages, and we still need to set up that connection between these two spaces. So let's set up that connection right now. How we do that is first you head back to your repository here and you click on View Connection Instructions. And this is where you can select Maven as your package manager client, and then you will copy the code in step 3 and paste that in here. Boom, done. Okay, and then next, we're going to be creating a settings.xml file. So all you have to do is, again, run this code in your terminal, which will create a new file. Literally happened in the blink of an eye. Did you see that? Settings.xml has already been created now in my file directory. And let us populate the code in settings.xml with the connection instructions that have been provided to us. Thank you so much, Code Artifact, for telling me this is exactly the code I need to put into my settings.xml file. So let's paste that in here. Okay. And again, repeat for step 5 in your connection instructions. And then again for step 6 of your connection instructions. And that's done. Press Command S or Control S on your keyboard to save your changes. Never forget. And let's test that connection now. So compile your application using this command. Cool, let's compile it right away. Oh, look at that. It is compiling now. Does anyone in the chat remember what compiling means? I'm very curious. Compiling is a term that we have been talking about ever since, project 3 in this series. Project 3 is about code artifact. Project 4, absolutely, we talk about it too, in code build. I'll be very curious to see if anyone in the chat still remembers what compiling means and why we're doing it right now. Okay, it is compiling. Our project is building. Wow, it is going off right now. But you will absolutely see the progress of this in our code artifact repository already. Okay, so do you see how our code artifact repository is looking empty right now? Because this state is still before we set up that connection between our code artifact repository and our working space, our web app project. Now I'm going to hit refresh. What do you think is going to happen in here? Look at that. I just hit refresh and I already now have 3 pages of packages, dependencies in my code artifact repository. That was incredibly fast. So what's happened here is when we built our project and we compiled it, our settings.xml file already told Maven, hey, by the way, please store the dependencies, please make sure the dependencies and a backup copy of that is being stored in code artifact. So this time when Maven was compiling your app, it made sure to do that. It made sure that there will be these packages being kept in your code artifact repository as well. So that was incredibly successful. And we are going to be also setting up this IAM policy for using code artifact too. This IAM policy is so important because our next few services will use it. So let's set it up right away and find IAM either here if you've recently visited it, or just in your search bar, type in IAM directly, and let's visit the IAM console. Here, I'm going to be clicking on policies, and I'm going to create a new policy, switch that to the JSON tab, and use the code that's right over here as well. So let's copy all of that over and paste that over here. Very nice. Notice that I replaced everything that was existing. So before there was this as a placeholder, just select all of that code. We don't need any of that and paste over it. And then just like that, we're going to name the policy code artifact next to consumer policy. And there's even a description to add as well. It provides permissions to read from code artifact, and we're going to create our IAM policy. Someone in the chat has asked a very great question. Joaquim has asked, can we expect to do something like this in a real workplace? I love this question. I love that you're thinking about the real workplace already. And I think that these projects will absolutely build a foundation for concepts that are very, very important in the workplace today. So having a look at the wider scheme of things, this project is about automating with CloudFormation. In this project, you're also building up your CI/CD pipeline, and both of these are absolutely like tools, concepts that are being used in the workplace today. In fact, like in our Nextwork team space, where I'm absolutely getting to see how this is being applied within our engineering team too, which has been really, really exciting. Not every single engineering team or engineer uses CloudFormation specifically. Sometimes they will use other tools. For example, Terraform is a big one. But absolutely, through these projects, you're building that foundational understanding of how this works. At the end of the day, sometimes in other workplaces, they're using different tools for it. Maybe they're using more advanced tools. Maybe the way that they're using it is a lot more complex because they're managing apps, they're managing a lot of different teams, they're managing a lot of different services. But the core concept and the core way of how these things work is still going to be very, very consistent. So I hope that answers your question, but let me know if you'd like to know more. I would absolutely love to chat more about this as well. But yes, the next step, we're now in Project 4 territory, by the way, is to create an S3 bucket. Since we're now in Project 4 territory, what this means is if there's a step that you like to see a slower kind of walkthrough version of, find that link to Project 4 in this series. It is in the description box. Check it out, and we'll say hi over there as well. Let's create a new bucket in our S3 console, and let's name that bucket a very beautiful name called Nextwork Build Artifacts Your Name. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to type in my name in the Your Name placeholder and just leave all the other options as default to create your bucket straight away. That leads us to head back to our code family of services because we have just touched on code commit, okay? We've touched on code artifact. Now we're in code build, okay? So let's get started by creating a build project in code build. And let's name this project Nextwork Web Build. Expand that little toggle called additional configuration and give it a little tag as well. Stake our claim. Say that the team that owns this build project is a DevOps team. That's us. And in the source panel, we're going to be saying that, oh yeah, by the way, the code that we are building is being stored right now in a code commit repository. Let's click on that code commit repository that's already suggested to us. And the branch is going to be main branch. Perfect. Next, under the environment panel, almost skipped over it. Let's just make sure we have everything set up right. Is the provisioning model on demand? Is the environment image managed image? Is the compute EC2? Yes. Operating system, Amazon Linux. Runtime is standard. Image, oh, this is where we have to change something now. So let's just change that from 5.0 to Corretto 8, because Corretto 8, remember, is the version of Java that we installed at the very, very start of this project. So let's make sure our environment, our build environment recognizes that, and that is why we made that switch. The image version, we're going to say, hey, always use the latest image for this runtime version of this, and the new service role that we're going to be creating is going to be very, very handy later on. So let's give it a bit of special attention right now. We are creating a new service role, and the role name is called Code Build Network Web Build Service Role. Okay, very cool. You're going to see this pop up a little bit later too. Now under build spec, we're going to be using a build spec file, and under the artifacts panel, let's make sure that we use Amazon S3. We're using the bucket that we've just created called Network Build Artifacts. And the name, we're going to change that to Network Web Build Zip. Joaquim in the chat says, thanks, Natasha. You're absolutely welcome. Keep the questions coming. I love them. At the bottom, the artifacts packaging should be zip. And then under the logs panel, we're going to be enabling CloudWatch logs. Make sure this is enabled. It's going to be quite important later on in this project too. And in the CloudWatch group name, let's call this Network Build Logs. Over here, the stream name prefix will be called Web App. Very cool. Let's create that build project to finish it off. And again, Solomon says, must the operating system be Amazon Linux? Please explain that part. Very, very good question. So what Solomon was asking there just now was, why was the operating system Amazon Linux? Now, this is something that we explained in Project 4 of this series. So if you click on that link to Project 4 in the description box, there's a more drawn out explanation on why we use Amazon Linux. But in the meantime, please know that there isn't a strong, a big reason why we're using Amazon Linux. Truly, it is something that is often used as the default operating system in a lot of AWS projects, because that is just something that AWS has done really, really well in terms of supporting. It does a really, really good job whenever you use Amazon Linux. And I think why we use Amazon Linux in this case, first, it is a really, really great safe default to use. Second, we used here also an Amazon Linux 2 image to create our, we also use Amazon Linux 2 to set up our network IDE over here. So we also just wanted to keep things consistent by making sure that we're always choosing Amazon Linux as our image. But I don't think the operating system definitely always has to be Amazon Linux. It is more that this is just the default that we are choosing, and to make sure everything is very, very consistent throughout our project. For context, at the very, very start of this project, you had to create a IDE. You had to create your Cloud9 IDE, and that was also hosted on an Amazon Linux 2, EC2 instance, which is why we've pretty much set up this theme of using Amazon Linux throughout this project. I hope that makes sense. Please ask any other questions you might have about that, Solomon. That was a very good one. So next, we're going to be creating our buildspec.yml file. And how that's going to work is we're going to be using our Cloud9 IDE. And in our left-hand navigation panel, we're going to be creating that buildspec.yml file. We're going to right-click here. And we're going to click down here to New File over here. Beautiful. And let us type in buildspec.yml before we start populating it. So we're going to copy in the below contents over here. And let's paste that. Nice, nice. It's looking good. We will have to make a few edits before we move on. Before we just click save, let's make sure we make those edits. First of all, please make sure that the domain here is Network. Because my code artifact domain is called Network, this is perfect. I don't need to touch it. But again, if you've already used a different domain name, make sure to change that to match it. Next is the domain owner. This is where you put in the AWS account ID. In my case, it is this beautiful handy number that I can just click on this for to copy it immediately in my clipboard. So let's click on this little icon. And when I head back here, I'm going to make sure that I paste and replace it. Oh, Solomon says thank you very much. If you have any other questions about that, we can always chat in the community as well, by the way, Solomon. Cool. And I think that is all the changes we need to make, so we can absolutely just save our build spec.yml file right away. Let's press Command S on our keyboard or Control S if you're using Windows and commit those changes. Commit those changes. Ask yourself now, why are we committing those changes? This is something that we talked about in Project 4 of the series, but absolutely should be something that everyone can answer. If you're doing this project and if you've already done Project 4 before, ask yourself, why are we committing our changes? And think about what the impact will be if we don't commit those changes. In the meantime, I'm going to be modifying our code build IAM role. So what that means is with the build spec.yml file created, we have just created this beautiful file over here. We're now going to update the code build role. It needs permissions to use our code artifact repositories during the build process. Do you remember what the code artifact repository was for? So we created that, about one big step ago. And that code artifact repository is storing literally all of the packages and the dependencies that our project is using. So when code build is now about to build this project and compile it, it will absolutely need access to those repositories so that it can retrieve all of the packages and dependencies that are stored inside and package it all together as well with the web app itself. Right now, it doesn't have access to code artifact, but it absolutely needs access to code artifact. In fact, it even asks to export a code artifact authentication token. So what that means is, let's absolutely go inside IAM and make sure code build has access to our code artifact repository. So I'm going to be opening up my IAM console once more, this time not to create a policy. Just now we created our code artifact policy already. This time I'm creating a role. I'm going to create the role. I'm going to call it code build network web build service role over here, and let us make sure that the use case is very, very clearly for my code build project. Over here, let's click on that. Click next, and then we're going to be adding permissions over here by searching for the policy that we created just now. Do you remember what it's called? No worries if you don't. It started with the word code artifact. So what is going on here is I'm creating a role that just basically says, hey, that code build project that I've just created, that I've just set up, I need to give it access to code artifact and all of the repositories inside my code, inside code artifact. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to grant my code build project access. I'm pretty much giving it this kind of this VIP necklace, this little pass. And how I'm going to give that to code build is by giving it a role that has this permission inside. So I've created the role. I'm creating it right now. And that role has the permission to access code artifact. So that is why it is very, very important for us to connect our resources using IAM policies, IAM roles. And this is perfect. So we have already created the role, by the way. We don't need to create a new one. That is my bad. We're going to search for the role that has already been created for us. And how do you know it's been created for us? It was created. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I missed this step. Apologies, everyone. But what had happened was when we created our build project, let me just sneakily go back to the page where you create build projects. When we created our build project just now, do you see how it says new service role? And that new service role already had a role name. It's already been created for us. I didn't need to click on create role just now. I just needed to search for the role that was already created for us. It was this one. And now let's go straight into editing the permissions that it has. so that not only does it have its base policy, and base policy is basically like you need these permissions as a code build project. You need to be able to have access to log groups, log streams, your S3 buckets. And this is a policy that's already been created to make sure that it has the ability to write CloudWatch logs. Again, something that we talked through in detail in Project 4 of the series. But right now, I'm going to add permissions and attach that ability to access code artifact and my code artifact repositories. So let's attach that now. Let's click on that little tick, and let me add that permission. So that was perfect. Let us test everything we've done so far in our build project by going back into the code build console over here. Let me find the build project that I've already created. Okay. And we're going to click on Start Build. Okay, so the build has started. It might take a little bit of time. Sometimes it'll take about like 2-3 minutes the first time you run this, up to 5 minutes. Give it its time. You can sip on some tea. Jong is in the call? Jong is in the live? Thank you so much. Hi, Jong. This is some pretty good tea. Very, very nice. I'm drinking Thai tea right now with a bit of vanilla flavor to it. It's delicious. All right. So while our build project is doing its thing, it is building, let's have a little peek at what's to come. Okay, so this is literally the last step before we go into the CloudFormation portion of today's project. I'm very excited about this. This is going to be very cool. And the first thing that we're going to do is create a CloudFormation template. So we'll be switching gears into the CloudFormation console in just a minute. We just have to wait for that build project to work. So it's still in progress. I hope it works. But yeah, wasn't that such a journey? We did all that to set up our web app and to set up some of the components of that CI/CD pipeline. So let's recap quickly. We use Cloud9. Oh, it failed, actually. But let me just recap quickly anyway. We use Cloud9 to create our web IDE. We use code commit to create a Git repository for our source code. We use code artifact to create repositories to store our project's dependencies and packages. And just now, we have been using code build to automate that build process. And building means compiling the code and also packaging that into a WAR file, into like a very, very simple file that can be given to any server, so that any server who receives that file will be able to run and host your web app very, very easily. But as you can see, my status has failed. So what I'm going to do is to have a check of why this has failed and have a little chat with you guys about this. Ooh, I'm going to exit out of this screen. Okay, so as you can see, as failed, it's going to tell me why. I'm going to look at the phase details. Ooh, upload artifacts is where it failed. There was an error in upload artifacts. Bucket region error, incorrect region. The bucket is not in US West 2 region at endpoint. Bucket is in US West 1 region. My goodness, there's a few errors. There are a few alarm bells ringing right now about the region for our bucket. Why could this be? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head back into my Cloud9 console. Not my Cloud9 console, my S3 bucket. And have a check at where is my bucket? Is what it's saying true? Well, here, my Nextwork build artifacts bucket, let's have a look here. It is in the right region. It is in US West Oregon. So what is the error that's happening right now? It's saying error in the upload artifacts phase, incorrect region. The bucket is not in US West 2. The bucket is in US West 1. Ooh, this is interesting. So how we could further diagnose this is by looking at the build logs and again, scrolling all the way down to see what kind of error we're seeing right now. Yeah, it's saying the same error. There was an incorrect region happening, where do you think that US West 1 region could have popped up? I'm very curious. So my first instinct is to look at how I've set up my build project. So let's have a look at how I've set up my build project, and look at the project details and just double check if I've connected it to the right S3 bucket. Maybe I've connected it to the wrong S3 bucket. Have I? Let's see. So yeah, interestingly, it says the artifacts upload location is CF templates. Why does it say CF templates? See, the artifacts should be uploaded to my S3 bucket, and we all know that S3 bucket is called Network Build Artifacts Natasha. This is the name of my S3 bucket. Why does it say CF templates? I've clearly clicked on something wrong there when I was setting this up. So I'm going to fix that issue, okay, by changing that bucket name to Network Build Artifacts Natasha. That was definitely a misclick on my part, team. Let me update the artifacts portion again. And let's start the build one more time, this time hoping that the build will be successful now that I've fixed the bucket. I'm sure it'll be okay. Salil says you misclicked. Salil, you caught it this whole time. I've embarrassed myself in public today, team. So thank you so much for sticking through it with me. And quick yarn while we're waiting for this build to be completed. So what is happening right now is the compiling process. And just now, Salil says, I wanted to tell, but my chat was gone. That's okay. You're telling me now. That is so sweet of you. Thank you so much. So right now, we're compiling our web app. And we're packaging it into a file called a WAR file. Just now in this live, I asked everyone, hey, can someone in the chat tell me why are we compiling? What does it mean? And just as a quick share about this right now, compiling is basically translating your code or your application code, what you've created, your Java. In our case, we've created our application, our web app in Java Corretto 8. And compiling is basically translating what we've written in Java into machine code. Because machines don't actually talk in programming languages. Programming languages is how we create our applications. It's not like we're talking the machine language now. There's still some translation needed to be had for a machine to actually understand your code and be able to host your web app. And that's why compiling exists. Okay, it is great to see that it is a success now. So that means step 1 is officially over. We have now set up our web app's infrastructure. Next up, let us create a template to deploy this infrastructure in seconds. And we're going to be using CloudFormation to do that. So search for CloudFormation in your console. Let us search for CloudFormation over here. Looking beautiful, everyone. And you're going to see a bunch of stacks over here. It is not looking beautiful. You're going to see all of the attempts I've made to create this project in the first place, but your list of stacks is probably going to be a little neater. It's probably just going to have maybe 1 or 2 lines, perhaps just one line that's just like AWS Cloud9. And this would have been a stack that Cloud9 has created for you and launched on CloudFormation to say, hey, can you quickly help me create an EC2 instance and use that EC2 instance to host the Cloud9 IDE. The reason why we could even open the Cloud9 IDE so quickly was because there was an EC2 instance in the background this whole time running your IDE, and that EC2 instance you didn't even need to create manually. Cloud9 has created a stack in CloudFormation for you to create that EC2 instance for you. So that was really, really cool, seeing the way services are kind of helping you in the background. But if you're wondering, what are stacks? What is CloudFormation in the first place? Let's have a quick chat about it. So remember the entire step 1, which we just completed in setting up the infrastructure. What if that entire setup process could be automated? And that's what CloudFormation does. CloudFormation is a service that creates or updates resources in your account using templates. No more clicking through the console to set up all of these pieces of our web apps like CI/CD pipeline. You don't need to use clicks anymore. We're going to use code now. So with CloudFormation, you can write down basically what you want to configure using code. And you can basically say, like, I need to create a code artifact domain. I need to create an S3 bucket. I need to create my code commit repository. All of that you can write down into a simple text file. So you're kind of writing up what you need, explaining what you need in code. And then you're going to pass your text file into CloudFormation and say, all right, here's my letter. Here's everything I've written about what I need. CloudFormation, can you go and create those resources for me? CloudFormation is going to read your letter. It's going to read your list of requirements, the list of resources you want to create. And it's going to say, yeah, sure, let me create that right away. And the cool thing about CloudFormation is that it can create all of those resources concurrently, which is crazy to me. That's like if you split yourself into 10 and each of you is working on one, like a new resource concurrently. It's so fast, so much faster than you like clicking and doing this manually by yourself. The reason why it's been great that we have been doing this manually is so that we can have a good understanding of every single piece of this journey. But now that you have a good understanding, we can automate it and scale so that the next time you can absolutely deploy this infrastructure in seconds instead of 40 minutes, for example. So yeah, in this project, you are going to be using CloudFormation to set up a stack for deploying your web application and your CI/CD pipelines resources. Using CloudFormation templates in general will make sure that everything is always set up correctly and consistently with less risk of human errors. It really saves you time as well, as we just mentioned. So how are we going to create a CloudFormation template to store everything that we've just created in a file? Well, the great thing is there's a tool that is called the IAC generator. And what it's going to do is it's going to scan all of the resources that already exist in your account and pull all of the information of those existing resources and help you create that template with you. So how it works is you need to start by creating a scan. So a scan is basically like, can you sweep through my account and just give me a log of everything I have, all the resources I have. So let's start by starting a new scan. And off it goes. There's a scan in progress right now. So CloudFormation right now is sweeping through your account's resources and collecting everything that you can save in a CloudFormation template. It will take a few minutes for this to complete. That's okay. That's okay. We can have a quick chat about what are stacks in the meantime, because I know we have talked about stacks. We have mentioned stacks, but we haven't really talked about it yet. So there's a difference between a CloudFormation template and a CloudFormation stack. Okay, so as you might see just now, we have talked when we first came into this console, the first thing that we saw were stacks. This was the page that we saw, and there were like stacks. And think of each stack like a stack of pancakes. So just like how a stack of pancakes is just like layers and layers and layers of pancakes, a stack in this case is just like a lot of your resources put in a stack together. And you can think of a stack as like one single unit. You might have like 10 resources in there. You might have like your S3 bucket, your code commit repository, your EC2 instance, your Cloud9 environment, like all of that in one stack. But they kind of exist and can get deleted in one go, kind of like as a single unit. So I can say like deploy this stack. And what that means is CloudFormation, you know exactly like the stack of resources I want to create. Here you go and create it. And it's all going to get created for you at the same time. And you can also delete entire stacks. So let's say all of these resources are now created and spread all across my account. I can also go tell CloudFormation, hey, I'm done with this project now. Delete the stack. And CloudFormation is going to go to all of the different parts of AWS where it's created these resources, pull them all back, and delete them all together. And that is why stacks are so helpful. You can think of them as kind of like a folder to collect all of the resources that are relevant in one place, and they can get deployed and deleted as a single unit altogether. So those are stacks. And what we're creating right now is a template. So what that means is we are creating a way to write up and collect those resources into a single place. Whereas stacks are kind of like once you've sorted out your template, you know what you want to put in a single place. It's about deploying it and deleting it. So that's why templates come first. And then stacks are pretty much things that you create because you have your template ready now. So let us Now that the scan is complete, very nice, we can create our template. So I've just clicked Create Template here. And I am going to, here, under the Provide Template Details panel, enter Network Web App Setup as the template's name. Very cool. Choose Delete as your deletion policy. Do not retain it. And Delete as your Update Replace policy. So we have just changed that from retain to delete here. And why do we do that? So the deletion policy asks you what should happen to the AWS resources in this template when the stack is deleted. Okay, let's say I'm going to go delete my stack. What should happen to the resources that have been created from this template? In our case, we want to just delete everything in that stack, keep things very, very clean. Now, what that means is in the future, when you're ready to delete your web app, you can just delete this stack and all of the resources are gone. Kind of like what I mentioned about pulling things back into one place and deleting it. If I kept retain, it means I can delete the stack, but all the resources are still going to sit in their respective places. And I still have to go into every single console to delete it manually. Update Replace policy asks you what should happen to the AWS resources in this template if they need to be replaced during a stack update. In that case, the old resources can just go. Okay, if I were to update my stack and my resource needs to, I need to create a new resource and replace it, delete the old one. I just want to keep the new one. That's all it's saying. And update replace is not as important as the deletion policy. This is the one thing that you really need to know. Like, this is the reason why when you delete a stack, all of the resources in that stack gets deleted, because that is the deletion policy we set up. This template name already exists. That is my bad. I don't think this error would come up for you if this is your very first time doing this project. Let me just quickly delete this other project, this other template that exists, so that I can create the one that I need to create now. Let me click next one more time. I think it should work. Oh, it still exists. Oh, that's cool. No worries. Let me try create that template one more time. Let me just click delete one more time. Go. No, the template still exists. I think it's taking a bit of time for the system to register that I've deleted the template that I've set up this morning, but that's okay. Let me just add a cute little one to the end of my name, and I think you can create it now. I don't think you would have run into that issue because it's your very first time creating a template. That was simply a little silly mistake where I still kept the old template in my account. Okay, so now that we've created a name for our template, CloudFormation is saying, look, I've scanned through your entire account. I know exactly all the resources that can go into a template using my help. Which of those resources do you want to put into your template? Tell me right now. Tell me right now. I can put them in a template for you right now. So that's what we're going to be setting up. So it is time for your hunting mission. Which of the scanned resources that CloudFormation has gone to collect can you add in your CloudFormation template? So in the Add Scan Resources panel, use the search bar to look for resources you've created to set up your web app. You know, all of step one, all of the resources we created to set up this web app that exists right now, what are the name of those individual resources that helped build the web app that we've set up and that CI/CD pipeline that we set up? It is your hunting mission to figure out and identify the resources that should go into this template. But if you're completely lost on where to even start, the quick demo is to first click on the search bar. And let's just pretend that we're thinking, oh yeah, my Cloud9 environment, I created that. Maybe it can go into a template. Ooh, interestingly enough, there aren't any search results. This means Cloud9 can't be used in a CloudFormation template using the IAC generator, this generator that we're using, this tool that we're using. Okay, so we can't really use Cloud9 using the IAC generator. That's okay. So let's type in code artifact instead. Aha, look at that. There are some suggestions. So if I were to use that first suggestion, domain, here it's saying, oh yeah, you've created a domain, didn't you? You've created a domain in code artifact that's called Nextwork. Let's use it. So by clicking that checkbox, you have pretty much just said, oh yeah, let me add that domain called Nextwork into my template. That is the very first resource for your template identified. Congratulations. Can you identify the next 5? There are 6 in total minimum that you should be identifying right now. So let me go scroll down a little bit so you can see the next instruction. Your challenge is to find as many resources as you can on your own. There are at least 6 in total. We've just found 1 together. What are the other 5? The hint is, here's a list of resources you've used so far. If you get stuck, okay, here's a list of resources you've used so far that might help you narrow down your search a little bit more or give you some inspo on what kind of resources can go into your template. So there are some really crucial resources that should be in this template. One of them are, some of them are the IAM policies, the IAM roles that we've created. So I'm going to be typing in IAM and go into role to look for the code build role. Remember that service role that we used? Let us make sure that's in here. Oh, Tishepo in the chat says hello. Hi, Tishepo, you're here. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed this live demo. Let me find that code build service role. Can we find it? Let's see. Hangout Buddy says, hey, welcome back, Hangout Buddy. Thanks so much for coming back. This is cool. And you're my lucky charm. Just as I say hi to you, we have found our code build service role. So let's tick that. What else? What is another resource? Oh yeah, the policies that we've created. So let's make sure those policies can get created, can get added to our template as well. Dwayne Ryan says, hey. Hey, Dwayne. Welcome. How are you doing today, Dwayne? Hope you're having a good day. All right, in our managed policies, can we find the policies that we've created for our web apps so far? These are lambda code build CloudWatch logs. This is something that we did create. With AWS Lambda, we didn't reuse AWS Lambda. We don't need this. How about the other page? My QuickSight policy is still in here from the QuickSight project. Lambda, all of these would have been from the Amazon Lex project as well. Wow, lots of different roles in here. Can I find any other policies? Sorry, lots of different policies in here. And here we are. Here's the other policy that's absolutely important, the code artifact policy. This is a policy that basically gives other services the permission to access my code artifact repositories. So absolutely, we need to add that into our template as well. Is there anything else that I can see? Let's see. My code build base policy is a good one too. So let's add that. Goodness, that was a good haul. So we've just upped our count from 1 to 5. Okay, we have our code artifact domain. We have 3 policies. We have 1 IAM role. What is something else I can add? So let me search, go through the rest of this list with you. We have, let's see, we have code commit. Shall we look for code commit? No results. Code build? No results. What about S3? Aha, you can absolutely add S3 buckets into a template as well. So let's go look for my S3 build artifacts bucket. Here we go. That was very fast. And there we go. Those are the 6 resources that you absolutely should have in your template. And there we go. Your code artifact domain, your local code artifact repository. Oh, do we have the code artifact repositories in here? I believe not. I believe they are not here. So let us go into our code artifact repository and add that. That is my slip team. Those code artifact repositories absolutely should be in here. So that is the local repository and the upstream repository as well. You might be wondering, why is this resources now 8? The reason for that is because I realized I'm a bit too trigger happy and I accidentally added in policies that I was supposed to reserve for the next step, but that's okay. We can just add them in now. But absolutely, the 6 that you should have. First is the code artifact domain, the 2 repositories, the IAM managed policy. This is the one that you absolutely should have. It is your code artifact policy for providing other services access to code artifact, and also your role, code build's role, which gives code build the access to code artifact repositories. And then this is your build artifacts bucket as well. So that is perfect. And what I meant was being a bit too trigger happy was the fact that I was supposed to click on next and see that there were recommendations from CloudFormation that recommended the two policies that's called code build base policy, which we've added just now, as well as the CloudWatch logs policy, which we've also added just now. So the learning from this, if you didn't catch these two policies, sometimes CloudFormation can tell you like, hey, by the way, I think these two resources could be quite interesting to you. That's awesome. You know what? I'm going to simulate that event by unticking what I've ticked so that you can see what I mean. I'm going to quickly type in policy here and remove the policies that I've already selected, the two that I shouldn't have selected so quickly. So let me untick that one. Shh, pretend you didn't see this. I'm going to untick that one, and I'm going to untick this one. So, so let's say I've ended up in the 6th that we absolutely should have in our template, and I click on next. Yeah, over here, CloudFormation says, oh, by the way, I see that you've added the code build role that gives code build the access to your code artifact repositories, but also that code build role also had 2 other attached policies inside. You should add those attached policies in your template file as well, so that your code build role is absolutely complete, as all of the policies it needs to create that role. And those 2 policies were the base policy as well as the CloudWatch logs policy. So we're going to graciously accept these suggestions from CloudFormation, click next, and let us create the template. I think we're ready. Cool. That's looking great. So while the template's getting created, you also might be wondering, hey, why couldn't we add all of those resources in the template? We actually missed out quite a bit. We missed the Cloud9 environment. We missed the code commit repository. We missed the code build project. These are examples of resources that the IAC generator simply can't process and include. Sometimes they require specific configuration details, specific security permissions, and the generator might not be able to handle all of that automatically. And that's why the generator isn't perfect. But luckily for us, it doesn't mean you can't include any of those resources in a template. While the IRC generator, the tool we've just used just now, can't write them into our template for us, we can actually write some parts of that template ourselves. So shall we go do that? We shall. Let us click download and download our template. And I think we are ready to take a screenshot and start our documentation. So let's take a screenshot of our completed template. You know what? I'm going to kind of do this. This looks pretty good to me. Looks good. You could even take a screenshot of this too as well if you'd like. But the key part is that we just paste that screenshot and get straight to writing our reflections. Okay, cool. So paste your screenshot in the slide over here, but we're going to write our prompts in the slide before that. Cool. How we're going to do that is I'm going to quickly zoom in here to the page that's called Setting Up a Template. And here we go. We have a few prompts for us to write down. Ooh, exciting stuff. Time to write down a few prompts and do a bit of reflection. Our CloudFormation template is, what is it, team? What is it? A CloudFormation template is a way for us to describe using code resources that we want to deploy I created a CloudFormation template using the IAC generator, which explain what the IAC generator does. Ooh, very cool. So IAC stands for infrastructure as code. So I'm going to mention that first, which stands for infrastructure as code. And is a tool within the CloudFormation console. It's a tool within the CloudFormation console that helps scan all the resources in my account and write my template for me. Solomon says, amazing session. I learned a lot and enjoyed it, but I gotta leave the live now. That's okay, Solomon. I hope we get to catch up in the recording, by the way. Thanks so much for being here and appreciate you staying as well. It has been so good to have your energy and your questions. Much appreciated. Thank you. All right, the next prompt says, surprisingly, not all resources could be added to my template. Yeah, that's correct. You know what, I'm going to add to this by creating an example, e.g. my code commit repository. Hello, why can't I add this to my template? In fact, that was actually the prompt itself, so I'm going to shamefully delete this little thing that I thought I was being cool by adding. And add that to the end of the sentence. For my web app, the resources I couldn't add to a template were my Cloud9 environment, my code commit repository, and my code build project. Dwayne says, can this also be uploaded on GitHub? Absolutely, it can be. You're more than welcome to use the files or use the code pieces, like the code extracts, and use that in GitHub as well. You're more than welcome. Awesome, Dwayne. However, the list of resources that I could add to my template, were, and then we're going to list them right here. What could I create? For example, the S3 bucket containing my build artifacts. Hello, that was really cool. What else? There was also the IAM role for my code build project. That was awesome. IAM policies, 3 of them for my code artifact repository and code build project. Yeah, those were what the 3 policies were for. One of them was to grant access to the code artifact repository that you can give to others. One was for code build to have access to CloudWatch. The other one is a base policy, which is basically a policy that gives code build all of the basic permission it needs to do what it always does, compiling and storing your build artifacts in an S3 bucket, for example. So, and my code build project. That was very satisfying. What else? Can you remember? Time to jog your memory a little bit. We also could create a code artifact domain and also a code artifact repositories. My local and my upstream repository. Very, very stacked list, I'd say. So this brings us safely to the end of the documentation for this step. Let's move on to the next step. And the next step is to edit the CloudFormation template. So now that we have downloaded the template just now at the end of our previous step, we can now edit it manually. It's super, super cool. Let's do this together now. So how are you going to find the template that you've just downloaded is to first find it in your downloads folder. If you were to click in your downloads folder, it should be the first thing that pops up. It sure is for me. And ta-da! You can see literally the template that's been created right in front of you right now. This is amazing. Wow. The ISC generator just created that for us. Isn't that insane? Just by scanning my resources, saying, hey, can you please write a template for this, 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 and this? Off the ISC generator went, literally converted those resources I've defined into code for me. Wow, That was so fast as well. That was so, so cool. So we're going to be editing our CloudFormation template. And what that means for me is I'm going to really want to be able to do this in a place that you can see. So why don't we have fun by putting this in our Cloud9 IDE. So let me just click plus here, and I'm just going to run, you know what, actually, I'm going to use my local editor. I just realized Cloud9 IDE could be a lot of fun, but using a local editor means that it is a lot easier to save my file later. So I'm going to just make sure that you can still see my all of the instructions, but this time we're going to be splitting our screen, not between the instructions and the AWS console anymore for this section. Shocker, I think this is our very first time doing this. We're going to split my screen between my local IDE here, I'm using VS Code today, and the instructions. So I'm going to jump back into the part in the instructions where we talk about this. Dum, 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 dum. And here we are, edit the CloudFormation template. Let's rock and roll. So if you have any questions, by the way, in being able to open this file locally in your computer, please let us know. In the community, you can DM me as well if you're feeling a bit shy. But all I did was just double click on the file that I downloaded, and it automatically opened it in my IDE for me. If you don't have an IDE, I'm guessing that how it's going to open is it's going to be open using text edit over here. Now, I love text edit, don't get me wrong. It is just that I'm going to be using my IDE today because I'm going to be using the colors of the text to help me with explaining a few things in the next few steps. But you can absolutely do this, the steps that I'm about to take, using text edit as well, or like Notepad++ if that's your local text editor on your computer. I hope that clarifies things. And let's go into it. Oh yeah, if you're wondering, what is an IDE? Again, where Google Docs and Word is kind of like the text editor, IDEs are like the code editors. It is where you can absolutely write your code, format your code, manage your code in a very, very organized place. Highly recommend using an IDE. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is all of the resources that we've asked CloudFormation to turn into code for us, and this is the code that was generated. It is insane to me that this code literally represents all of the resources that we've created in step one, well, at least most of the resources. And look at this little image here that's basically trying to tell you that each section of code, each kind of section in a section is basically anything that falls under one of these headings, defines one resource. Okay, so in this case, this section over here is defining one resource, one of the 6, or actually 8 that ended up in our template. Look at that. So another one, just keep track of all of the lines that only have one indent in them. All of the other lines that fold underneath that indent is basically kind of like the definition of one single resource, right? So just like that, this is another like resource being translated into code in this little block here. Again, here is another piece, another segment of code representing another resource. Okay, so you might notice that all of this code is like kind of crammed together. So what I think we can do now is to try organize this code or add some comments to it to really make it very easy to read and understand as well. So let's do that right away. It is very easy to add comments to code. Adding comments is basically like adding a little annotation for yourself. It is not going to affect how your code runs, by the way. So you can add as many comments as you want, and the way that your code runs does not get affected. Think of it literally like kind of like a note to self that you can write down directly into the code file. And adding a comment is super easy. In this scenario, all we have to do is press a little hashtag. Okay, and once you see how my text turned green, that was basically confirmation from my IDE that says like, yeah, you're writing a comment right now, aren't you? So let's give our first comment a go. Again, the goal here, the reason why we're even writing comments is to really organize our code a little bit. So the first comment I'm going to write is just, this is my code build service role. Okay. In this case, it is my IAM role that's called code build network. That is my build service role. So I'm going to identify it here, code build service role. All right, let's scroll to the next one. What is this? What do we think this is actually describing? Let's have a look. Well, it says IAM manage policy at the front, so that's pretty helpful, pretty descriptive. And it even tells me that the name of this policy is code artifact network consumer policy. Aha! Does it give you a bit of does this ring a bell at all for you? I hope it does. The description provides even more context. This is the policy that provides permissions to read from code artifact. One of those key resources that we identified earlier on. So let's add a comment for this. IAM policy for accessing code artifact. Let's keep scrolling down and add comments for the rest. I mean, this one, IAM policy for code build. For code build. Hello, code build. My typing is not the best today, is it? For code build's basic permissions. Let's go keep scrolling down. And again, like literally anything in between policies, like all of these lines here that you see, is like the definition or like the explanation of what you want inside this resource. So it gets so detailed. Look at that. Amazing stuff. Okay, the next one, code artifact domain. Pretty descriptive. So, it says code artifact domain over here. So I'm going to call this my code artifact domain. Keep going. The next one, again, IAM managed policy. So I'm getting very familiar now with writing comments for these. IAM policy, and this one is called service role code build CloudWatch logs policy. Wow, okay. So I see all of those keywords. I now know that this is my IAM policy for granting code build access to CloudWatch logs. Okay, cool, thanks. All right, anything else that we need to be defining? Oh, yes, there is. Code artifact repository. Okay, cool. Let me write a comment for this. Hashtag code artifact repository. And in the bottom here, it says the name is called network packages. So I know that this is my local repository. Perfect. So we have that down pat, and we still have one more to go, which is another code artifact repository. And this one has to be the upstream repository that we set up. So I'm going to call this the code artifact upstream repository. If you're wondering what is an upstream repository, what is a local repository, we went over this in Project 3 in this DevOps series, by the way. Okay, very cool. So we have added comments to our template now. So what's next? Let's have a look. All right. So what's next is to add some more resources manually. Do you remember how just now we said just because our ISC generator can't pick up on code commit, code build, as well as Cloud9, it doesn't mean that we can't write this manually. So let us copy this code that represents a code build project and a code commit repository. Let's copy that and paste that over, to the bottom of your file. Oh, beautiful. It even comes with comments already. So this first block defines a code commit repository. And then the last one is the code build project. It's so good to have these in the file as well. I feel like my template is already so much more productive with having these two extra resources in there. And yeah, if you like a quick explanation of the code, this snippet above adds 2 more resources to your CloudFormation template. The first one is your code commit repository. So this is like the Google Drive folder in the cloud. And then the next one was your code build project over here. These could not be automatically added to the template, as you might recall, with the ISC generator, because they require a bit of manual steps once you've deployed them. For example, once you deploy a code build project, you still have to select main as your code commit repository branch. So there are sometimes things like this that you still need to set up manually. And it's the reason why the ISC generator just doesn't give you that option in the first place, because it's saying, well, I can't do this for you. So I guess we're gonna leave code commit repositories or like our code build project off the cards now. That's okay. At least we've added it manually now. And hot tip, don't forget to indent the copy code if it's not indented already. That was a little bit of a tongue twist. But as you might notice, do you see how the code here starts not directly at the very, very start of the line, but after a little indent? We want to make sure the formatting is consistent across all of our code. So I'm going to do that by indenting my code at least once, if not twice, if you didn't have that first push. And that's perfectly done. So I've indented my code and I'm ready to save my changes. So again, press Command S if you're on a Mac, Control S if you're on a Windows, and we're going to search now for a treasure hunt. Now, this treasure hunt asks us to look for our code build service roles configuration. Why is that? Let's have a look. So I'm going to copy this and search that in my file. Search. Okay, so our search has perfectly matched this long name over here. And that is exactly what we were looking for. That is the code build service role configuration name. And I'm going to copy that. Whoa, you might be thinking, why are we doing this? Why are we copying this long thing? You're going to be seeing the word configuration, which I just mentioned before. It's going to pop up quite a bit when we talk about this template. So in a CloudFormation template, a configuration is like a section of code that defines how you want to set up that specific resource. So in this scenario, our code build service role, this is our configuration. So this is our configuration. Over here, all of these lines, they help with defining our code build service role. And the name of this configuration, basically the title of it, it's kind of like titling a document. It's not really a part of the document, but it is at the very top, and it's how you identify the document. In this case, our configuration's name is this. It's kind of like, this is the title of your document, and this is the contents of your document over here. So let's copy this, okay? And the reason for copying this is we're going to replace it somewhere else. So now that we've copied the service role, still in your template, don't leave this page. We're going to find our next line, which is going to mention code build service role. Very cool. And I'm going to replace that in here. So I've copied that long name just now. I'm going to paste that in here. Beautiful, done. So what does this line say? What this line says, this get attention over here, it's like a short attribute, not for get attention, but for get attribute. So it's used to fetch specific details about a resource that's defined in your template. So I'm basically saying, hey, let's fetch the details of my code build service role, because I'll be needing this to define my code build project. And the .arn part at the end basically defines that I am looking for the resource name of the code build role. So again, I'm saying, hey, can you please help me get an attribute? I want you to get the attribute of this thing. And the attribute that I'm looking for is called ARN. Okay, that was exactly what we did. And that's the reason why we had to replace this, because this was just a placeholder in our template file. We actually need to make sure the references are right. We want to make sure that we are referencing the name of the code build service role in the template instead of any random name. If we had used a different name, if we had kept it to this, it means that later on when CloudFormation is reading a template, it says, oh, okay, a cloud build service role. Where is it? I can't find it. Where's the code build service role? It doesn't know. And now that once you give it this name, the configuration name, it's going to say, oh yeah, where is this thing? It's going to scroll. It's going to find it. I think it is this one at the top. See, it's going to find it, and it's going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is it. This is the code build service role. And I'm going to find the ARN of this code build service role. So perfect. We have set up that reference perfectly. Okay, and Now we are going to be doing the same thing, but for another reference. Okay. The other reference is called location ref artifacts bucket. So I'm going to scroll down to the line that says location ref artifacts bucket, and let's understand why that line exists. So you can find this at the very end of your file. Do you see how it says location ref artifacts bucket over here? What does it mean? Well, our code build project, when we defined it, we had to define a lot of different attributes. One of them was the artifacts attribute. And we defined that we are going to refer the location of the S3 bucket that's going to hold all of the build artifacts that come out of this build process. And now artifacts bucket is kind of like a reference to that. So it's going to say, hey, look for the location of the artifacts bucket, and that is going to be the location of where you're going to store your build artifacts. But where is the artifacts bucket? Now your CloudFormation template's going to read this line and says, okay, I'm going to look for artifacts bucket. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it right now? Well, again, the name for the artifacts bucket is slightly different in this template, isn't it? You can find the specific name by figuring out where's your definition for the code build bucket. Is it in here? Oops, is it not in here today? I might have forgotten it in my template, have I? I'm gonna double check this. Is it in my template at all? It might not be. Okay, I think what has happened here is it might not actually have ended up in my template, and that's because it would have been missed when I created my template file. Let me double check this in my IAC generator. Let's double check my template and the resources that gets created from it. Is my code build artifacts S3 bucket here? Oh, it is. I must have. Where's the reference for this? Hello? Let me go look for it. Build artifacts. Where did it go? Can you see it? Hello? Where's my S3 bucket? Where's the definition of my S3 bucket in my template file? This is suspicious. Can I still see it? Let me download this one more time. Surely I can download this one more time and try to investigate where it's gone. Can I see it? Type. S3 bucket? Was this in my file at all? DKAMX in the chat says type. Yeah, AWS S3 bucket. It should be here, no? If it was in my... Oh, it wasn't here. I'm almost spooked, everyone. Did I accidentally replace something just now? I'm gonna quickly double check this. I feel like just now in the template that I first downloaded, I must have forgotten something because it wasn't in here. That is a little bit strange. That's okay. I think I accidentally replaced something in my template file. But the S3 bucket definition absolutely exists. It is right here. Except that it just didn't make it into the file I downloaded the first time. So if this happens to you, please download your file one more time. I am very, very fascinated at the fact that it didn't make it into my template file. But that's okay. I'm not going to get hung up about this. I'm promised to not get hung up about this. I'm going to quickly paste that definition of my S3 bucket at the bottom here and continue moving on, because it is good news that we have found our S3 bucket. And shout out to DKAMX for mentioning that we should search this and we should look for this because we have found it now. And absolutely, now that we have pasted this in, we know that we have our configuration name for the S3 bucket. That's perfect. So let me copy this And let me go look for that reference to my S3 bucket one more time. So here it is. And let's paste that reference in here. Okay, so now when CloudFormation is reading your template line by line to create your resources, it's going to say, oh yeah, we need to create a code build project. Okay, let's create a code build project. These are some of the properties. It needs to have this name. Okay, sure. The source of my code build project's code is in code commit. And also, I am going to be, storing the artifacts in an S3 bucket. I'm going to be storing the artifacts in a zip file. It's going to be called Network Web Build. And the location of where I should even store this S3 bucket is in here. Oh, okay. Where is this place? Where is this thing? It's going to scroll. It's going to look for this. It's going to find it and says, oh, okay. It was referring to this exact bucket I'm going to create. And it needs the location of it. So that was super, super handy. Now I'm going to click Save, Command S, and or Control S if you're using Windows. And I'm going to move on to the next part. Now, we have already, replaced the reference to the S3 bucket. This is exactly what these steps were about. I'm going to quickly scroll through this to make sure that we haven't missed anything important to explain. Let's see. This line was trying to say, yeah, once the build artifacts are created, store the build artifacts inside another resource. And that placeholder name was called artifacts bucket. But in this case, we've replaced that reference to the actual reference of our S3 build artifacts bucket. You might be wondering, why is it that the reference just now, this is using an exclamation mark ref, but over here, it was the reference that ended in .arn. You might be thinking, this is a little bit suspicious. Why are they kind of different? This one has get attribute .arn over here, but this one is a location that says reference and then my bucket name. I feel like the way that these references are structured is slightly different. Yeah, so the reason why that was different, the line for the artifacts bucket doesn't use .arn. Here, this line does not use ARN because it's only looking for the bucket's name. It's not looking for this full ID, and the ARN is like a complete ID of your resource. Whereas this reference absolutely needed it. It really needed the ID of our code build service role, and let that be returned to the service role itself. When we create this code build project, we absolutely need to be very, very specific about the ARN of the service role that it needs. But in terms of the location, we just need to use exclamation mark ref, and that was all we needed. We didn't need to give the very specific ARN for this one. So that is completely just CloudFormation templates, preferences or the level of specificity required. And that is why it is slightly different. So nothing to stress too much about. Just know that it is because of the different nature of the way we define things. And yeah, it is just a small difference between exclamation ref as well as exclamation get attribute. All right, but that brings us to the documentation for this one. So let's take a screenshot of the edited code build project configuration. And let's quickly highlight something that we've edited. I've edited this one. I've also edited this line. So I want to select both of them. And let's take a screenshot now. Oh, so very cool. I've just zoomed out a little bit so I can put the whole thing in my screenshot. So I've selected both lines now. I'm going to take a screenshot. Very nice. And let us add that to our documentation. So my documentation was stuck back in this small little window here. So let me paste my screenshot here, and let me just write down my thoughts. So screenshot over here. Okay, nice, looking good. So let us explain what we just did. So after downloading the generated template, I manually defined 2 more resources. And what were those resources? Do you remember? They were my code build project. And also, what was the other thing? Can you remember? A code commit repository. I had to manually define these because why weren't they included automatically? Because they required complex configuration, manual setting up, which meant I could not create them using the IC generator. I also had to make sure the references were consistent in this template, which meant I had to replace placeholders for the configuration name. I had to replace placeholder values for the configuration name of my build artifacts bucket. And what was the other thing? Can you remember? What was the other reference that we changed? It was it was the IAM service role for code build. That was the other thing that we changed. So I think that brings us very nicely to the end of the documentation for this step. I think we're ready for the next step now. So absolutely, you can always adjust the width of your text boxes in your documentation if you've written too much, which always seems to be the case for me, actually. But okay, we have edited our template as well. I think we are ready to give our CloudFormation template another test. Actually, not even another test, the very first test. So what we're going to be doing next is step 5. Ooh la la, we're in step 5 already. Over here, step 5. Oh, step 4. My apologies, I meant step 4. Is to test it. So we still need to actually delete the resources that overlap with the resources described in our template. So we actually need to go through and delete these resources over here from our account. And that was because when we test our template, we're about to give CloudFormation this template and say, can you deploy these resources for me? But if CloudFormation is trying to deploy a resource and it goes and realizes, oh, this resource already exists in your account, it's going to stop from creating. And that is not really the test result that we want to see. We want to make sure that our CloudFormation is able to deploy all of the resources that we've defined. So we're going to make sure that we delete any potential duplicates off of our account right now so that when we test our template, it is very, very squeaky clean. It's very, very easy for CloudFormation to deploy everything. So let's start by just going through this list over here and deleting these artifacts, these resources off of our account. So these were our code commit repository. So I'm going to go find the code commit console on my screen. And if you're feeling a little sad about the fact that we are deleting a few things, that's okay. That's okay. That is a part of the learning journey, everyone. If you're wondering why do we even create these resources if we're just going to delete them later, it's because we needed to create them for the scan that we did at the very start of using CloudFormation. You know, that scan that went through all of your resources in order to collate what can go into the template. That scan absolutely need to include resources that you set up, in the very first step. Otherwise, the scan would pick up nothing. And that's why it was so important for us to do that scan. I'm just going to delete the code artifact repositories as well. Very cool. Both of the repositories should be deleted. And what else should be deleted? The domain itself, next work. So we can just click on delete domain here. And what's next is your code build project. So let's go into the build projects. Oh, let's not create a new one. Let us delete this one. So we're going to click on the build project. We're going to click on actions. We're going to click on delete. And let us type in delete. Delete it off. Go, go, go. And next is a few resources that we're going to delete off of our IAM console. So, we have our code build service role. We're going to delete that first. So this is the IAM role. for code build. Let's just delete that. Copy it, paste it, done. That's deleted now. And let us delete the policies next. We have a few policies to delete over here. The first one is starting with code build base policy. We don't need that anymore. So let's click on that little circle next to the code build base policy and let's click on delete. And let us delete the entire thing. Next, let's delete the CloudWatch logs policy. Okay, let us delete the entire thing. Oof, sheesh. And then lastly is the code artifact policy. So let's delete that off as well. Delete. Slay it off. We do not need it. We need to have a clean slate when we deploy our resources. So let's delete that. Okay, done. I think that is it for deleting. And let us create now a new stack with all of those resources in the file and see if they deploy properly. So let us go into CloudFormation and let us create a new stack and see if it works. Okay, so let's click on Create Stack, click on With New Resources Standard, and we are going to be using an existing file. We are going to be using a template file, and we're going to upload that file immediately. Make sure that you've saved all of the changes that you've made. Okay, click Command S, click Control S, make sure it's all saved, and upload that file, that updated file that you've created, into this console. So click Next. Let's give our stack a name. Exciting. Next DevOps project will be the name of the stack. Click Next. And in the stack failure options, we're just going to make sure it rolls back all stack resources. Make sure it deletes all the newly created resources. So these two options are basically saying, if my stack fails, okay, let's just say CloudFormation couldn't successfully deploy all of the resources. Let's say 2 of them failed, 1 of them failed, 3 of them failed. How many of them failed? Regardless of how many failed, just delete all of the other resources that were just created from this stack as well. Because I would rather have nothing get created in my account if any one of those resources have failed. I just want for them to only be deployed, anything to be deployed, if all of them work. Okay, if one of them fails, I'd rather have nothing get created in my account just to keep everything very, very clean. And I don't need to keep deleting after every unsuccessful like stack deployment. So after those 2 options that we've created, let's just click Next. And I think we're ready. I think we are ready. So let us choose acknowledge this blue pop-up that just says, yes, we are happy for you to create some IAM resources, and let us submit it. So the events panel over here is where you can see up-to-date kind of feedback from CloudFormation or updates from CloudFormation on how this deployment is going. As you click refresh, you're going to see so many of these updates. And wow, that was instant. We just got an update that says the rollback is complete, but it doesn't look like happy news, does it? Why? Let's see. It's giving us an X, which usually just means it has rolled everything back. It has deleted everything, all of our resource. And that is not a successful state, because if it was successful, it just means everything was happy, everything could be created. So we've just deployed all the resources and they're now sitting in your AWS account. That's not what we're seeing. This message is saying, oh, we've successfully rolled everything back. The only reason why anything could be rolled back is if there was an error. So let's go look for an error. Where is our error? Shall we go see? Shall we go see? Whoa, there was a create failed. Why? Why does it say that? So track all the way back to the first time you see a create failed and look at the error message. Ooh, the error message says the role with the name code build next to web build service role cannot be found. What? What about the other error messages? Okay, again, cannot be found. Next to build artifacts Natasha already exists. Oh, That's another error. This one says, yeah, again, the code build next to web build service role cannot be found. Ooh, so bad. Why? Nothing to be too stressed about. First things first, what this error message has told me is, again, remember why we deleted all those resources off of our account is because we wanted to avoid any duplicates in the account. We wanted to make sure CloudFormation has a clean slate to deploy into. Otherwise, it's going to run into errors. Remember how we said that? Well, I should have listened to my own advice. There was one resource I just forgot to delete. It was the S3 bucket for my build artifacts. This exact bucket still needs to be deleted. So let's make sure that it does. How should we do this? I am going to quickly click on this and delete it. Oh, the bucket is not empty, so let's just empty that bucket. And let's quickly delete my S3 bucket. Let me click on this and let me paste that in here. Oh, it actually just needed to type in permanently delete in the text input view. Someone in the chat is giving me hearts. I just want to say thank you so much for the hearts. You are giving me energy. Thank you so much. So I typed in permanently delete. I'm going to empty it now. And let me delete the entire bucket too. So let me delete the entire bucket now. And this is where I'm going to copy in the name. Paste it in here and delete the entire bucket. Very cool. Our bucket was all deleted. So that means that first error message should be resolved now. Okay, you see that error message that said, hey, the next build artifacts Natasha bucket already exists, so I'm not going to create. That error message should be resolved now. The next time we run this, we shouldn't see this error message anymore because our S3 bucket has been deleted. So there's no longer any overlap. But what about this other one? It says the role with the name code build next web build service role cannot be found. Okay, so this error message is trying to say that AWS can't find the role and it needs this role in order to create the policy itself. But you might be saying, hey, but that role should exist. I defined that role literally in my exact same template. In the exact same template, I've set to define the code build service role. The code build next web build service role, this complicated name over here, that's exactly the role that it can't find. But look, it's in the definition in my template. You should be able to find it, right? You're creating it at the same time. Well, what's happening here is, CloudFormation is literally creating it at the same time. So before it's done creating your role, it's already trying to attach a policy to the role and it's saying, oh, wait, the role's not even created yet. So here's the error. I can't find it. So how do we tell CloudFormation, slow down a little bit before you try to attach my policies to a role that hasn't been created yet? Can you wait until my role's been created? Let me wait. Please wait until this role has been done, ticked off, before we try to attach those policies to our service role, right? Because to make this very, very clear, what is happening is, this resource is saying our IAM managed policy is saying it can't create, it's failed because the role does not exist yet. And you can find you kind of trace this error back into your template file itself. This is the IAM managed policy that's got the error, and then it's saying, look at this here. It's saying that it is attached to a role called code build next web build service role. So by the time CloudFormation kind of made its way through this template, it's reading line by line and saying, okay, yes, I can create this for you. And it goes to roles. It's going to try to attach that policy to a role now. And it's saying, oh, sorry, I can't actually find a role yet. And that's why the create failed happened. So let us take a screenshot of this error message and start documenting that. I think I'm going to be sneaky and kind of put my screen into the full screen mode so I can take a great screenshot of this error message. Okay. Wow, this looks great. So let me take a screenshot of this create failed message. Okay, that looks great. Absolutely, you could also make this slightly smaller. I think I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller and type this down as well like this. I think I'm going to take a screenshot like this so it looks, the dimensions look a bit not too slim. Like it's going to have a little bit of height to it as well. Very nice. This looks good. And paste that into my documentation template. And write my documentation. Okay, so I have pasted in that I have my create failed error message. Oof. Okay, over here. And over here, the caption should be the error message I received when deploying IAM policies. Deploying the IAM policies. So let us document some of those learnings in our documentation template. Before testing my template, what did I have to do? I deleted any potential overlaps in resources between my existing resources in my AWS account and the resources I want to deploy in this template. That's exactly what I did. To test my CloudFormation template, I created a stack. Yes, a stack is a collection, bundle of resources that can be deployed or deleted as a single unit. The beauty of stacks. The result of this first test was create failed. I'm going to put a sad face. This was because, what was the error message? This is because CloudFormation created my IAM policies and tried to attach them to my code build service role before my code build service role was deployed. So I think you could even mention in this section that there was also a reference to the code build service role. I can just say, because the code build service role did not exist at the time, the IAM policies could not be created. That is simply the truth. Okay, very well done. I think we're ready for the next step, team. What is the next step? It is to fix your CloudFormation template. Yeah, now that we know the issue, let's fix it. So how do we fix it? We shall do a manual kind of injection of a line of code into our template. So open your CloudFormation template again in your text editor. You know, it has never left my text editor. It has always been right here. And find the 3 IAM policies in your template. Can you find it? I have IAM policy here, IAM policy here. You know, those green comments really help, don't they? They really do help. Someone in the chat is putting in hearts. Thank you so much for the hearts. I appreciate your support. And another IAM policy here. So that's 3 IAM policies, all of them referencing the code build service role 1 time, 2 times. What? Okay, 1 more time here. They're all referencing the code build service role. So all of them are returning the same error saying like, hey, I can't create it. The code build service role doesn't exist yet. So what we're all going to do is we're going to add this magical line that's going to tell CloudFormation to wait for your code build service role to create first before we try to attach these policies to that role. So that magical line is called depends on. We're going to add that to our IAM policy configuration. So here, all you have to do is copy this, paste that in your IAM policy configuration. Just make sure it's underneath the title, and you'll be sweet. Make sure it's in that first indentation. Don't fold it underneath here, like under properties, for example. Make sure it's above that properties line. And it is called depends on. And here in quote marks, you have to paste in your IAM role's name in the CloudFormation template. So this is not the Nextwork web build, that Nextwork-web-build name. It is going to be the configuration name. Like, remember this name here, like the title of that document. Find the title of our code build service role, and then we're going to paste that in there. So you can find that over here. Extremely handy. It's already right here, my code build service role name. And I'm going to make sure I paste that so it's in between the speech marks. Very cool. Okay. And then we're going to copy that again. And we're going to do the same for the other times that we see our IAM policy. Another IAM policy. Again, before the properties line, let us make sure we are pasting in that depends on line. Yeah. And let us do that one more time just for our very last IAM policy. So let's paste that in here. Boom. Save your changes. And let us take a screenshot and write another piece of documentation. So take a screenshot of the depends on line added to one of your IAM policy configurations. I'll just choose this one, the latest one. And let's take a screenshot. Phooey. Looking good, team. Looking good. And let us put that in our documentation. Okay, let's paste that in here. Boom. Looking cute. And let's talk about the template errors that we're going to fix. Okay. To fix the error, I went back into my CloudFormation template to make some manual edits. Exactly what we did. Good job. I added the line. What was the line that we created? What was the effect of adding that line? So what was the line called? It was called depends on. And I'm just going to copy that template that we used and paste that in here. And I'm going to change your to my. So my IAM, my code build IAM role's name in the CloudFormation template, what was the thing that it did? Which tells CloudFormation, oh, I added the line depends on in the configuration of my IAM policies, which tells CloudFormation to wait for my code build service role to finish creating, which tells CloudFormation to create. Actually, let me correct my grammar here, which tells CloudFormation to create my code build service role first before creating my IAM policies. That's exactly what I was trying to do. So this was added to 4 different parts of my template. Oh, I think I was a bit speedy here because I have also not mentioned that there was one other place that we need to put this in. Stop and reflect for a second. Is there anything else in your CloudFormation template that might also rely on your IAM role? Have a look. Have a look in your document. Is there anywhere else where there might be referencing that they need the code build service role. If you've guessed, well, it's called the code build service role. So maybe the code build project itself is going to reference that service role. If you thought that, you are a genius. Here you are. When you look at your code build project configuration, do you see how the service role is mentioned? Do you see it anywhere here? I hope you see it. Do you see it? It is right here. Service role, get attribute. Oh, wow. It is the reference we literally put in just the previous step or 2 steps ago. It was the service role .arn that we added. This absolutely means that our code build project relies on that code build service role to be created first in order to attach this ARN into here. So that's why we are now going to mention that our code build project also depends on. Okay, we're going to copy that depends on line, and we're going to be pasting that into our code build project as well. So let me add that in here, paste, and it's looking stunning, team. I'm feeling really confident right now. And now that it's done, let me mention that in my template. So where were the 4 locations? These were the 3 IAM policies and the code build project. So those were the places where we added this special line over here, that depends on line. What a lifesaver. Thank you so much, depends on line, for existing, because you've absolutely helped us in this project. So cool. I think we're ready to now give our template a second test and see if it works now. Shall we have a look? Let us go back into our CloudFormation console and let us test again our CloudFormation template. So let me click on create stack. Let's create a new stack with new resources. Use the existing template because this template already exists in the world. We're going to upload that over here and make sure you're selecting the template that you've just updated. Oh yeah, and whenever you're uploading that new file, make sure that you've already saved your changes as well. In my case, I've known that I've saved my changes, so I can just upload that file right away and see how that goes. Okay, so I'm uploading the file, clicking next. Whoa, what is this error message? Hoo-wee! We got another error to solve. This error is called a circular dependency. What a great error to talk about. DKAMX is lol, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. There we go. There we go together. We're in this together, DKAMX. And, oh, let me just make sure I'm at the right one. Yeah, so now that we have fixed it, I was going to say this is a mistake or something. Turns out you meant to add this as the last error to solve. Yeah, you're right. Shh, it's an intentional error. We were supposed to see this error so that we can learn from this together. So dang it, what is it this time? DKAMX says, I literally just fixed it before you talk about it. Good job picking up on it and fixing it yourself. That's great. This error, known as a circular dependency, you can see that here. Circular dependency. It's kind of like a chicken and an egg situation. That is kind of like the error that we're looking at right now. So your CloudFormation template is kind of like it's stuck in a loop because your policies say we're going to depend on the IAM role. That is literally the line that we just created. But your IAM role also says that it needs the policies in place. It's kind of like each one is waiting for the other to get created for. It's like saying IAM policies is like, I'm depending on the code build service role to be created. Create the code build service role first. But what's going to happen is it's going to check your code build service role's definition. CloudFormation is like, okay, fine, I'm going to create the code build service role first. But it actually references back the policies as well. Oh my goodness. Okay, that is the entire reason why um, our this is the entire reason why that circular dependency exists. Because now co-build service will say, oh, they said to create me first. Well, I mean, you can create me first, but I actually need the IAM policies to exist because I reference them in the configuration as well. We don't need this actually. So we need to break that circular dependency. One of them has to go. And in this case, we're going to delete the managed policy ARNs over here. Delete that and save this file one more time. Why could we delete this one? Well, technically attaching a policy to a service role, it can work both ways, right? So if you're attaching a policy to a service role, which we are, in these definitions here, automatically that service role is going to have those policies. So absolutely, you can delete that reference from this side, and it will still mean that your co-build service role has these policies attached to it. Cool. So you might also wonder, by the way, something that you might also be wondering is over here, why did these circular references exist in the first place? Why didn't CloudFormation just delete these circular references for me with the ISC generator? And I think this actually kind of almost exposes a vulnerability of using the ISC generator. CloudFormation doesn't fix circular dependencies on its own. It just follows whatever blueprint you give it to the template. So the ISC generator will just grab like the current setup of the resources, but it doesn't rearrange them to dodge these kinds of issues. So it is up to you to tweak the template a little bit to make sure everything is working correctly. So now that we have deleted that circular dependency, we've saved our changes, let's document a few things, and then let's test our template one more time. So let me again take a screenshot. I'm going to take a screenshot of the specified template panel of my console, which is basically the error message that we want to capture. So let me take a screenshot of the error message. Nice, we took the screenshot. Okay, so let me also paste that screenshot into my documentation. Paste it, paste it, paste it. Poof. Wow, very cool. And let's move that over here. Okay, very nice. Sorry, a part of me says that this should be a little bit neater. So I'm gonna move this over. And now you can see the entire line of this last line as well. Okay, that looks a lot neater, very cool. I gave my CloudFormation template another test, but this time I couldn't create the stack because of an error. This is known as a circular dependency. This error means, what does this error mean? This error means that two parts of my CloudFormation template are referencing each other as their dependency. This confuses CloudFormation on which resource it can create first. Okay, cool. To fix this error, what do we edit? What do we fix? I deleted references to the IAM policies of what do we delete it? Of the IAM code build service role configuration. That's exactly what we did. So that's perfect. I think, let me drag this a little bit further up. Oof, doesn't look too pretty, does it? I'm so sorry. This doesn't look very pretty. I think what I'm gonna do to fix this is probably to make that line spacing slightly smaller, so it kind of squeezes up a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna play around with this a little bit. Okay, perfect. So it's looking slightly more squished, my words, but at least they all fit now. Beautiful. So that was it for my second template test. I know the issue. I've tried to fix the issue. I've deleted those circular dependencies. Shall we go for a final template test? Okay, let's do it one more time. It's the final stretch, everyone. Let us give this one last go. Let me choose upload the file one more time. Okay, I've made sure that I saved my changes. Very good. Let's upload the file one more time and see if it works. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Does it work? Let's see. Oh, this error message still pops up, which is actually a glitch. Like it's like a visual that I think has stayed on my screen. But to make it very, very clear for you, let me start from the top. Let's not be lazy. Let's just start from the top and upload this file one more time. And let's see if that circular dependency error still pops up. See, it's gone now. So it's very cool. This is very optimistic. And let us enter the stack name. I'm going to say it's project 2, which kind of represents it. It's my second attempt at doing this. Let's click next. And again, in the stack failure options, let's just make sure that we delete all the newly created resources. You know, in the case of a failure, let's click next one more time. And I think we are ready to give this a go. Submit. Let's see it. Please work. All right. So again, our events log is going to start populating itself with a record of, has this resource successfully deployed? If not, why? Let's see it. Please work. Come on. Let's refresh it one more time. Ooh. This is showing pretty promising stuff. Our IAM policy is showing configuration complete. Should we refresh it one more time? Oh, looking promising. Create complete. So that means that the code artifact repository has been successfully created. The IAM managed policies have successfully created. So we can create the policies now. That's awesome. Oh, and a few other things have created. The code commit repository has been created. Look at that. Our code artifact domain has been created. The code artifact repository called the Maven Central Store. So that is the upstream repository that's been created. That's looking pretty promising, guys. What else has been created, team? The code build project of the service role. Okay, the IAM service role that's been created. What hasn't been created at this point? My gut feeling says it's the code build project that gets created last, maybe. And then the S3 artifacts bucket that still needs to be created. Wow. The code artifact repository, the local repository has been created as well. Wow, look at that. Create complete. Our sidebar has updated first and has told us that this CloudFormation template has successfully deployed all of the resources. Congratulations! Ooh, this is so cool. This is awesome. Congratulations. Our CloudFormation template is it's working. It's functional, everyone. It worked. What? So let's verify that everything is working by checking our resources. Thank you so much to everyone that's adding a celebration in the chat right now, by the way. These reactions are so cute. So I'm going to switch to the resources tab. Wow. Very, very cool. My resources tab gives me a breakdown of all the resources that we've created and even handy little quick links to some of them. Wow. Let me click on one of those handy quick links and see if it works. Cool, look at that. So the policy for my CloudWatch logs has been created successfully. Love it. What about my build artifacts bucket? Has it been created successfully? It has. Look at that. A lot of the pieces of the puzzle for my web apps infrastructure, as well as my CI/CD pipeline, all been created. How satisfying is this? So as you can see, if you click on the link, you get taken straight to the resource. Some of these don't have links. If something is region dependent, sometimes it doesn't have links. So don't get too surprised if there's no link. It doesn't mean that it's failed. The resource absolutely exists. It's just that you might need to search for it yourself. So for example, let's see, can we find our code build project? Let us go search for it. So I'm going to type in search, code build. Does the build project exist? There we go. This is the Nextwork web build. This is the build project. It was created 3 minutes ago by CloudFormation. So that's awesome. So yeah, everything's working great. I am stoked. I am so stoked that we've gotten to this point, team. So thank you for sticking through it. And let's take our final screenshot for our documentation. We're going to take a screenshot of the resources panel. Okay. Looking cute. Ooh, we're getting even more reactions in the chat. Thank you so much for the support, team. That's wonderful of everyone here. And oh, this doesn't look like it's going to be a very pretty screenshot, does it? That's okay. That's totally fine. Let us try. Can I drag this over a bit more? Oh, I can. Ah, very nice. So let me just take a screenshot of all of this. Okay. Happy days. And let me add that to my documentation template. Yay! My resources have been created successfully. So in my final test, creating the new stack was a great success. I could verify that all the deployed resources by poor grammar on my part. I can just X out that word. I could verify all the deployed resources by switching tabs to the resources tab of my CloudFormation stack. I could verify all the deployed resources by switching to the resources tab of my CloudFormation stack. Beautiful. And not all the resources in the list had a shortcut URL because some resources are deployed in a specific region, which often stops AWS from producing a shortcut link. This is so cool. Look at that. It's beautiful. And almost like magic, for some reason, I got signed out of my own management console, which is quite interesting. And you can absolutely use the time to write in your key learnings over here. While those learnings are still fresh in your mind, make sure that we're storing them somewhere in our documentation. Make sure to replace this final image with an image of you. So you can absolutely upload photos into Canva by clicking on that upload files button. You can find this by finding uploads, in the left-hand corner of Canva. And once you've uploaded a file, let's say I'm using this photo today, which I took about 5 hours ago. Okay, let's say I'm using this photo today. You can just drag that photo straight into your template, and it's just going to stick there now. Perfect. Again, use a photo for your cover photo. Don't forget this one. And you know what? I'm just going to be using, perhaps I should use, I don't know, pick one of these photos that could absolutely work. I'm just going to pick the first one because why not? And I'm going to copy this and then paste it over here. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. That's my cover photo sorted. And again, if you want to sort out your name, you can just press Command F in your keyboard, find the words your name here, replace it all with your name. So in my case, it's Natasha Ong, and click your replace all. And now all instances of your name has your name in it. You can do the same with your LinkedIn. So let's say my LinkedIn URL is Natasha Ong. In that case, I'm going to go find linkedin.com, your link, and replace that, with whatever is my LinkedIn, with whatever is my LinkedIn link. So for example, I'm going to say my LinkedIn link is Natasha Ong. I don't know if it actually is, but let's say it is. Replace it all, and ta-da! Look at that. Updated instantly. Amazing, fantastic, wonderful. So cool. That's all done. So once you're all finished with your documentation, please also don't forget to give a little description on CloudFormation over here. And once you're all done, I think you're ready to share your work. You'll be one of the very, very first people to ever share your PDF documentation in the Nextweek community when you visit the project page. So once you click on that link, you get taken to all of the projects in the community. But all you have to do is find the specific page for this project, click into that, and post your documentation over here. This would be awesome. It'll be amazing if you do that. That you'll be setting a record for sure in the community. Next, share it on LinkedIn. All you have to do is click here to open a pre-filled post that's ready for you to use. Look at that. It is ready for you. And you can click on more here and then click on that little add a document button and choose a file right away. So I'm going to click on choose file. Over here, I'm going to click on let's say I downloaded my documentation. I'm going to select that PDF. Give it a nice title. In this case, the title is going to be Automate with AWS CloudFormation. No, AWS CloudFormation. Okay, and let us click on Done to upload that document. I know this is a completely different documentation, but let's just pretend that this is a PDF of the documentation I've written today. Shout out to Tinega for writing documentation, by the way, and sharing that on LinkedIn. Cool. Once you're all done with this, all you have to do is click on that beautiful post button. I just realized I might need to switch this around. Click on that beautiful post button, and you're all done. That was super fast, wasn't it? Cool. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot this. Once you open the pre-filled post and you add your documentation, there's actually one last thing to do. Add a document. Okay, let's quickly add that document in here. Oh my goodness. Okay, automate with AWS CloudFormation is the name. So let me add that. And let me click on done. The one last thing I needed to do is to make sure that your reference to Nextweek is the correct one, okay? This does not tag Nextweek. We won't get notified if we don't add this tag properly. So please add this tag. We would love to see your post. Over here in this reference, make sure you type in that at yourself, and it's going to open up this little drop down of options. Click Nextweek in here, and then you've tagged Nextweek. Yay! So once that tag is properly done, you'll be ready to post it. So that's perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. And to finish off today, let us delete our resources. So in your CloudFormation console, delete the stack that you've created. Again, because of our handy delete policy that we've created, it's going to just delete all of the resources in the stack all at once. Oh, yes, I needed to sign into my management console again. Not too sure why that is, but maybe I've just been on the console for a bit too long. um, so remember how we created that delete policy that basically said that we could delete all the resources in the stack right away just by deleting the stack itself? That's exactly what we can do today by just clicking delete here. Delete. And when that's done, we're going to give it time to delete everything. And when that's done, you don't even need to go into your S3 console anymore to delete the artifacts bucket. You don't need to go into the IAM console anymore to delete your policies and your roles. CloudFormation is going to delete all of that for you. Isn't that so handy? And then in your Cloud9 console, click on Cloud9. You can delete the environment that you've set up. So this is the one resource that we didn't get to add into our CloudFormation template, which is such a shame. But there are a few variables that are quite difficult to configure with a Cloud9 environment. So adding it manually might be a bit of a challenge. That's okay, though. At least in the meantime, it is only just one resource that we need to create manually, because everything else CloudFormation has sorted for us, which is amazing. So while that Cloud9 ID is getting deleted, I'm going to head back to my CloudFormation stack and see whether or not it is gone now. So whether or not all the resources are gone now. So shall we have a quick check? Cool, let's check that Events tab one more time. Oh, it still says create complete. Did I forget to delete the stack itself? Maybe my delete didn't happen. But now the delete is in progress. So let's just let that CloudFormation stack delete itself, which might take a little bit of time, but that's okay. Delete complete. Woohoo! What that means is everything that has a delete complete next to its name will mean that it's been deleted now. CloudFormation has gone and deleted it for us. So thank you, CloudFormation. You can pretty much verify this by going into the so-called the resource that's been deleted and see, like, does it still exist? You can go to the resources tab. In this case, let's maybe click into a policy that's been created. Does that policy still exist? Let's see. It does not exist anymore. It's been deleted. What? That was very fast. So thank you, CloudFormation, for doing all of that heavy lifting for us and deleting all of these resources for us, so we don't even need to lift a finger. The deleting process just becomes so much easier too. So thank you, CloudFormation, for doing that for us. It also said, for example, the code artifact has been domain has been deleted. So let's go into the code artifact console and confirm that with our very own eyes. So let's click on code artifact. And let us click on domains. Look, no more domains left. No more repositories left. We're all out. We're all done. If we were to refresh our events tab, you'll likely see the entire stack is now called delete complete. So that brings us to a wrap with today's project on AWS CloudFormation. We have deleted the stack now. We've deleted our Cloud9 console. There's nothing else to delete. Deleting was so fast today. And just like that, we are all done. Abdul Rahman in the chat says, awesome session. It's intense, but sure, gonna do mine soonest with the help of your video. I'll reach out if I get stuck in the process. Thanks, Natasha. I learned a lot. Abdul Rahman, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is exactly why we do what we do. So thank you so much for the encouragement. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to hear how you find it. You're right that it is a step up from definitely from the first few projects. It is definitely the hardest project we've done by far. But the only reason why we're so confident about releasing this is one, it is so relevant to what engineers, what developers are doing in today's world. And two, by the time you get to this project, you'll absolutely have the capabilities to do this too. So get excited about that, Abdurrahman. Yeah, I can't wait to see you try this as well. And yeah, that was project 6 of this entire series all done. And in the next project, we're going to look at how to automate that entire pipeline from code commit to code deploy with AWS Code Pipeline. In the meantime, today you have learned how to initiate CloudFormation resources. By scanning, you learn how to create and configure a CloudFormation template. That was really cool. Just using all of the resources that's been scanned, you created a template. You learn how to make manual edits to your CloudFormation template, and then you learn how to fix the errors. We've had 2 errors, which are crazy. One was like the circular dependency. The other one was saying like, hey, like the code build role did not exist. That was another error. And then we've also conducted that multiple testing rounds to really refine our CloudFormation template until all of those resources were correctly configured. So congratulations on making it to this stage. It is just so wild that all of these learnings are packed into one project. I know it's been a very, very long live session, but absolutely worthwhile because these learnings will go a very, very long way for you. Great work, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for being here today. It has been an absolute joy, and I can't wait to see you in the next session. Thank you, everyone. See ya. Thank you so much. Thank you for the hearts as always. Thank you. Bye.